Welcome to worship at Eliot Unitarian Chapel. I am the Reverend Barbara Gadon, and I am honored to serve as your lead minister along with the Reverend Krista Taves. If you are with us for the first time, we offer you a special welcome. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation which welcomes all creeds, all races, all genders, all sexual orientations, and all kinds of families. Welcome. And welcome to UU Summer at the Movies. This summer, we are excited to worship with 9 other congregations, each one offering a service based on the themes and lessons of some of our favorite movies. For example, what have we learned about mass incarceration since 1994 when The Shawshank Redemption was released? How do we draw hope from The Last Jedi? Where do we find freedom in Hidden Figures? We will answer these questions and more at UU Summer at the Movies. All the movies we've selected are readily available. They're either free or they are inexpensive to rent. So do peruse the list, treat yourself, and watch them before the services.
Let us light our chalice this morning with the words of Florence Caplow. We light this chalice today in honor of the Unitarian Universalist first principle to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We recognize that these are not just words to be spoken. Instead, they call us out of our comfort into an ever deepening commitment. A commitment that we make to the rights of all whose inherent worth and dignity are denied, diminished, or destroyed by systems of oppression. And they call us into the practice of looking into our own hearts with courage and with honesty.
Our hymn is by Holly Near, We Are a Gentle Angry People, which is actually, is titled Singing for Our Lives. We're going to sing not all of the verses, but when we get to verse 5, we're going to change that to We Are Gay, Straight, Trans together, and that is with permission from the composer. are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Good morning. My name is Tatum Barnes. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at Star King. And here this morning I have a poem. When I'm unable to find a story that really hits home in the ways that I want it to, I am forced to write a poem.
I am forced to write a poem.
I'm forced to be creative.
I live this reality. Sorry.
This poem is called It's Hard. And there are 3 voices, so I'm blessed to be joined by those around me. But you know what? It's hard to be a boy. Why does everyone seem to care just how I find my joy? So what if I like to cook? So what if I like to bake? Why give me a funny look when I choose salad over steak? I can't help my voice from cracking. I just can't help being this short. So what if I don't know all about your favorite sport? No, my room is not a mess. I certainly do not smell. I'm relatively well behaved. I don't go raising hell. People are always judging, and it's obviously not fair. Oh, the dances I would dance if no one stopped to stare. But I guess I'll just suck it up, be a man, and continue to hide these feelings that you just can't understand.
I hear you, brother, loud and clear. But let me butt right in. It's hard to be a girl these days. Please allow me to begin. What is a little girl made of? Take notes and I'll explain. Sugar, spice, and everything nice. Oh, go throw it down the drain. It takes guts to be a girl. You've got to get it right. You step into a war zone just to walk the street at night. You're supposed to be real pretty. Supposed to be real sweet. But that's not so appealing when you're surrounded by these creeps. While you focus on my makeup, I'll focus on my substance and raise my voice loud and clear till the ladies get their justice.
Well, I suppose that I know what both of you all mean. It's another thing entirely, to be neither or between. The world loves its boxes. You're either this or you're that. But if you think that life's that simple, let's have us a little chat. I'm both, I'm many, I'm whatever I desire to be, but watch how society tries to stop me being me. I don't see people like me in movies or TV, and now people are policing the places that I pee. I don't feel safe in this world. Even this body feels strange. I think we all agree that this system needs to change.
No matter who you are, to be human is a trial. So let's do our part to make this earth home for every child.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Tatum. I think you should write poetry more often.
Don't mind if I do.
I'm reading for Dustin Hoffman today. A stand-in. Murray Schiskel, my dear friend, for over 30 years, kicked off Tootsie with the thought of, how would you be different if you'd been born a woman? Not what does it feel like to be a woman. All sexes have asked themselves the question, what would it feel like to be the opposite sex? But his question was different. If you were born a woman, how would you be different? That kicked off, well, how then we got involved in Tootsie for about 2 years before we even got a director. But I did go to Columbia and ask them if they would spend the money to do makeup tests so that I could look like a woman. And if I couldn't look like a woman, they would agree not to make the movie. And they said, "What do you mean?" I just somehow intuitively felt that unless I could walk down the streets of New York dressed as a woman and not have people turn and say, "Who's that guy in drag?" Or turn for any reason, "Who's that freak?" Unless I could do that, I didn't want to make that film. I didn't want the audience to suspend their believability. When we got to that point and looked at it on the screen, I was shocked that I wasn't more attractive. And now you have me looking like a woman. Now make me a beautiful woman. Because I thought I should be beautiful. If I was going to be a woman, I wanted to be as beautiful as possible. They said to me, "That's as good as it gets. That's as beautiful as we can get you, Charlie." It was at that moment I had an epiphany. And I went home and started crying. I said to my wife, "I have to make this picture." She said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I think I'm an interesting woman when I look at myself on screen. And I know that if I met myself at a party, I would never talk to that character. Because she doesn't fulfill physically the demands we were brought up to think that a woman has to have in order to ask them out." She says, "What are you saying?" There are too many interesting women I have not had the experience to get to know in this life because I have been brainwashed. And that was never a comedy for me.
The work of Unitarian Universalism is to weave a wider tapestry of love and justice. We are committed to that, to serve our communities. And our communities, our churches, and our fellowships are entirely supported by the spiritual practice of generosity from their members and friends. May your practice of generosity continue to support our communities as we, together, bring about a world of greater compassion and more love. Thank you for your support.
Take it all you can bear. You can call me
That was never a comedy for me. We explore and make sense of our lives through story. We gather over meals and tell stories. Some of them good, some of them not. We gather around the fire at a bar back in the old days, in the living room, and we tell stories. We tell our stories over the produce when we meet at the grocery store. As young children, we have favorite stories in books and TV shows. Even Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers are all about stories. We simply do not live without stories. Even in our own thoughts, we construct stories. Movies are a glorious way to tell stories, and in a movie, we can freely move within time and even generations. We can add a soundtrack. I can totally imagine a soundtrack to my own life. Movies as stories surprise us, sadden us, awaken us, delight us. This is what story does. In a conversation with Sarah Dan about what movie we might explore, she immediately said, Tootsie. Tootsie. And I'm like, what? Yes, she said it was the movie that made a difference to her, and I'll let her elaborate on that. But keep in mind, it was 1982 when this movie came out. I was 21 and a junior in college. Sarah Dan, you were
I was 20 and a sophomore
You're
in
such a
college.
puppy. The movie was not particularly amazing as far as cinematography goes. Nor was it even particularly well done with lines, though there are a few good ones. The plot even wasn't all that remarkable. Still, Tootsie highlighted the story of being human. And uniquely, the roles of gender and culture, of wanting to belong, to understanding who we are, and what degree of agency we have. The deeper Sarah Dan and I explored it, the more we uncovered about the human story. A little of the plot line. Michael Dorsey is an actor who struggles to find employment, not because he's not a good actor, but because he's difficult to work with.
I played the best tomato ever.
Right. But tomatoes don't sit down, so I wasn't going to do it. His friend is trying to get a part in a soap opera, and he's coaching her how to be angry as a woman, and she can't quite get it. And long story short, he too auditions for that part as a woman. And as a woman, his name is Dorothy Michaels. You can guess how it turns out. But that just sets up the scene, because in the course of the story, as Dorothy, Michael learns better what it means to be a woman. Mixed in with this, I think, is also the lesson for what it means to be a man. Then there's the whole issue of sexual attraction, love, friendship, and honesty. And so our service this morning is further conversation with both Sarah Dan and myself.
Oh. So it was 1982 when this movie came out, Tootsie, and I had just come out myself as a lesbian, who I am, in 1981. So we had never seen a character like this. Like, I don't think Ellen was out yet on TV. There weren't a whole lot of sure enough characters and movies surrounded around attraction and sexual identity and what you look like, and who you are as a person. So I asked Linda if we could do this movie because I love the music, and I love the story, and I loved Jessica Lange.
Wait, I loved Dustin Hoffman.
Well, I had a huge crush on Jessica Lange, and I wanted to be Dustin Hoffman.
I think I wanted to be Jessica Lange.
Right? So we could mix that up. And just that whole, I felt that same way myself. Like, right here I am dressed as a woman, seeking out other women. And it wasn't necessarily the straight and narrow path.
And for me, watching Dorothy interact with people on the set of the TV show, I was struck by how easily she stepped into owning her agency.
Right.
in ways that I couldn't as a woman, and especially not in the 80s. I couldn't be, and I'm pretty direct, but I couldn't be as direct as she was. And I felt like she got away with it because she held herself in such feminine posture, closed, right? Not taking up too much space. Women aren't supposed to take up too much space. Right? And I was struck and sort of amazed at flipping that in my head, because it's about my own sense of gender too, about what you can and can't say and how you should be in order to get what you want.
Right. There's that great scene, remember, when she's Dorothy and she's trying to hail a cab and she's going, taxi, taxi, and the cabs like keep blowing past her and she goes, taxi, and it stops. Right. And so not only how she carried herself as a person, but voice, how aggressive you can be, right? Like she's not going to let the old doctor kiss her, right? When he comes in for a kiss, she hits him with a book.
Right.
Because she's like, I
don't do that.
But then he does.
Then he does.
So that's another whole thing right there.
Well, and when that happened, right, this kiss from this character whom you don't really like, he's a has-been.
He's a smarmy old doctor.
He's a smarmy old doctor actor on the show.
Right.
And he kisses her, and after he kisses her, she just stands there like she's thinking about, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm. And he does.
With the breath mint. Well, and I think the other thing is because there's all these love interests, right? So attraction, because clearly in the movie they're showing an attraction between the Jessica Lange character and Dorothy / Michael.
Right. And they, so, he is a consummate actor as a he. And as a she, and as Dorothy. And so she asked him, can you help me with my lines? Can you help me study? We have new lines tomorrow. And he goes to her home, and she has a child that she's raising on her own.
Right, and Dorothy's still fully female.
Fully female. She's still totally dressed. And Jessica Lange also is having an affair with the director who belittles her, right? Pats her on the butt. Just calls her babe, honey.
And cheats on her.
A lot.
A lot.
And he knows that.
So does she.
And so does she. Yeah. And so when he's there, even when you talk about image, right? She says, do you always wear makeup so heavily? And he says, I have a little mustache problem. And she says,
well, some men like that in a woman.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so that whole, he cannot be who he is dressed as Dorothy. All he wants is to tell her who he is. But he can only show who he is through that dressed as a woman in character.
Right.
And so it's very similar to when you are gay. Sometimes you can't be as out as you want to be and to give as much of yourself as you want because you don't want to be rejected.
It's true of all of us.
Yeah, but you can go into a restroom in an airport and no one asks you if you know that you're in the right restroom.
Absolutely.
And it happens to me all the time. In public places. Excuse me, this is the women's room. Happens to me all the time. So there is a little difference.
Oh, there's totally a difference. And I think Dustin Hoffman in that piece that Margaret read said, I don't want to be seen as someone in drag. And then later he says as a freak. And as you and I discussed, that was cringeworthy.
Yeah.
That was cringeworthy because I wish that wasn't something we call freakish.
Right.
Or that there was such a difference in the way. And yet, sexuality is fun. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we hope so. And sexuality is, it offers us an intimacy that nothing else quite can.
And a connection to yourself and to another, right? As scary as that might be. And so then there's that whole scene then when he discovers that he loves her, and she takes him home to her farm in upstate New York, where her dad is widowed, and he automatically falls for Dorothy.
The father falls
for Dorothy. Right, yeah. So, and they're playing the piano and they're just having a great time.
It's
and he's
sweet.
It's sweet. And my favorite scene is when he's so
if you need to see it, go see the trailers.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman's in the bed with Jessica Lange.
Because there's only one bedroom at the farm.
And you girls can share, he says.
Yes, you girls will talk anyway.
Share, right? So then he's totally worried about what he looks like and who he is. And he has on this granny nightgown that's buttoned up to the very top. And he puts on another wig that has curlers in it as if that's what she is going to do. She has that beautiful part when she talks about the wallpaper in her room.
So Jessica Lange is talking about her childhood and her mother, who she misses.
And her mother. And she says, my mother said, if you pick this wallpaper, you're going to have to look at it for the rest of your life.
And the rosebuds never opened.
Right. So when you talk about sexuality, I can relate with how it is to be in a close, intimate setting with another woman and only can be.
Right. And such tenderness, right?
Yeah. And frustration.
Right.
Total frustration,
1982,
right?
I was pretty sure no guy was ever going to really, find the real me good enough. I was sure of it. I was sure of it. I couldn't really be myself. I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Yeah, I was wrong too.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think about that when I think about growing up and how we help our children help the world to an easier place, understanding their worthiness, their belovedness.
Right. How could anyone ever tell you?
You were anything less than beautiful.
But lots of people get told they're anything less than beautiful. And even in the reading that Margaret had, Dustin Hoffman wanted to be the most beautiful woman possible because he felt that way. And when they said, this is as good as it gets, right? So how he deals with that personally is what makes him feel like this is not a comedy.
Right. And the way he said that was, it was never a comedy for me.
Right.
It was never a comedy. And I have to say that seeing the movie in 1982 was a different experience for me than seeing the movie in 2021. I was struck more by Dustin Hoffman's reaction to everything. Like, that to me was the focus of the movie. Not because I found him attractive anymore, because you know what? As his younger self, he wasn't cutting it for me anymore. But the tenderness with which he came to realize what it meant to be a woman in that story.
Right.
And what it meant to be sexualized, what it meant to be not heard, what it meant to be a pushy woman, and how people respond to that. And I think his real realization was how he learned how he was complicit in that truth.
But also being complicit, there is the scene when he, as Dorothy, goes to Jessica Lange's house and they're studying in this, and she says to him, Dorothy, I wish men could just be honest, and I wish they would just come up to me and say, I find you very attractive. I think you're a fascinating person, and I would just like to get to know you and make love with you, or be with you. And he says that, as Dorothy, that would be heaven. So later in the movie, he sees her at a party.
And he's himself.
And he's himself.
Michael.
He's dressed as Michael. He's in his own self. And so he repeats those same exact words to her. Right?
Right.
I think you're very attractive. I'd like to get to know you. And she throws a drink in his face. So on the one hand, that's what she said that she wanted a man to do. And when he does it, she So there are mixed messages coming in all over the map.
It's a wonder we worked this out at all. It's a wonder we worked this out at all. It's
true.
a wonder. It's a wonder.
It is.
Oh. So things that have changed since 1982, gender roles, I think, and I've not been on the market. I'm not on the market.
And I'm not either.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
I'm not on the market, but I do think it's at least changed because of online dating. Because you can at least state what you're looking for,
Right.
honest or not. And I would hope, and when that first came out, we were all pretty like, yeah, no, that's creepy. And
Right.
now I think it's more common than not.
And quite successful in lots and lots and lots of reasons. Well, I also think, I mean, when I talk about differences, so when we were in our 20s, our parents did not teach us, my mother certainly did not teach me to embrace my sexuality or my identity or how I identified, right? Except that when she told me I had to wear dresses to school for a picture and for the class picture, and she said all little girls wear dresses for the class picture, and I got there and all the little girls were not in dresses, and I came home and I said to my mother, we didn't say the word lie in our house, I said, you told me a story. All little girls do not have to dress in dresses to have their class picture taken. So she kind of let that one go, right? Except at church. Always had to wear a dress at church.
There's rules, you know.
There's rules. But I think nowadays, like when I don't have kids, but when I look at the kids I teach, I look at your age kids, man, being gender queer is like no big thing.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's beautiful that you can be fluid, right? Gender fluid is another phrase that's used a lot among kids in high school, even younger than high school, even younger, so that we see these people, these young people that are embracing the fact that they're also trans.
Right.
At a really young age. And so when you have their parents be able to allow them to not only be who they are, but support who they are, then they become who they are.
Right.
Right. And some of that is media and internet and online dating. But I think part of it too is just generational, and, you know, now we still aren't there. I mean, you know, we're yeah.
But
I still get asked if I'm a man, right? So we're not all there yet.
Right. But it gives me hope that things have.
Right.
And it's interesting to sort of check in with take my own temperature. Right. Back in the 80s, the only thing I understood about transgender, the only thing I understood were drag queens. And I will confess, I found them phenomenally insulting. Because the drag queens that I witnessed in the media were very flamboyant, very feminine, all the things that I did not want to be as a woman, all the things I did not want to be. I do not want to wear sequins. I do not want rhinestones. I don't want to boof up my hair. I don't want any of that. And I felt, this was my response at the time, I felt like they were insulting women, that they were making fun of women. And that wasn't the case.
Right.
But it was a great lesson for me as I think about it now, that that every response that I have is coming from something in me.
Right.
Like, don't make me be like that. Right? Don't make that the acceptable way to be female. I see it as something very different now, but it's really interesting to change.
Well, and I think the biggest thing that I think about in conversations is we have this, as a culture, we have a fetish with other people's appearance and bodies. Like, we have this fetish. How do they go to the bathroom? Where do they pee? Well, why are they dressed like that? Why did they have those tattoos? Is it a man? Is it a woman? What is that? It's like, it's none of your business what it is. Like, this person is moving on this planet just like the rest of you, and it doesn't matter to you. If I was identified as a woman and was trans, and I wanted to go into the women's restroom in the airport, nobody should be able to say crap to me. So where does our culture come into thinking that it is their right to question who you are, right? And that's something that you learn as you get older. I would agree the same story with you, as far, even gay. Like, even as being a gay person, when I first met my first trans person at General Assembly in Nashville in 2000, it was like, I don't know how I feel about this, right? And now I've come to realize it doesn't matter how I feel.
Right.
This person doesn't need my validation in order to travel through the world. So I do think things are changing and have changed, but there's still so much work to be done. Right.
So and the resistance is real. And I think a lot of it has to do with power. Who has power? Who has power in sex, who has power in relationships, who has power to get to say how it is we dress, we act, we identify ourselves.
Sure. Right.
And I think that's why those of us with power, enough of it, when we write our pronouns after our name.
Correct.
When we welcome one another into the space of wherever we're at, however we are, we move it forward.
Correct. Right. I'm Sarah Dan. My pronouns are she, her.
Right. I'm Linda Barnes. My pronouns are she, her.
Right.
And most people looking at me would not doubt that.
Right.
Because I do. I wear skirts to work more than not.
But that doesn't really mean anything.
Exactly. Very good. Exactly. No, it means that's how I'm comfortable.
That's right. And how other people see you, right? But it doesn't, I mean,
The rest of it's my own business, right?
Right.
The rest of it's my own business.
But I do agree that when we do things like pronouns and that it just lets everyone in the room feel like they are included and being heard. Right. And it's a practice, right? We had a meeting the other night and they asked us to introduce ourselves with our pronouns and I forgot. Judy didn't forget. Raymond forgot. Right? And so, and the UUA, we do it all the time. And,
right.
I've been out of that scene for years. But it is important, I think.
So that makes me hopeful for the future.
Right.
So that in 2031, when you and I are retired, perhaps.
I'll never be retired. I'm going to be that little old lesbian piano teacher that still keeps, what I mean?
Maybe I'll pick up piano again.
Well, you're going to have to. You'll be retired. I'll need the money. So, yeah.
Thank you for recommending this movie.
Yeah, it's good. At choir on Thursday, I asked folks who had seen it, and actually most people had. Some people confused it with Mrs. Doubtfire.
Which is an entirely different
Which is a whole different perspective and a whole different movie and a whole different actor.
We can do that one next year.
Let's do that one next year. Anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, my dear.
The best line in this movie was Dustin Hoffman saying to Jessica Lange after his identity had been fully revealed, "I was a better man with you as a woman than I ever was with a woman as a man." Empathy and understanding. Stepping fully into another's shoes makes us better people. May we yet seek greater compassion and understanding as we turn the pages of our stories, knowing that our stories are intricately interwoven into the stories of those that came before and are yet to come, and with those most compellingly who live beside us. May it be so that we know we are not alone. Who can make the world a better place? Something's telling me it might be you. May it be so.
Something's telling me it might be you. It's telling me it might be you. So many quiet walks to take, so many dreams to wake, and there's so much love to make. I think we're gonna need some time. Maybe all we need is time. And it's telling me it might be you all of my life. I've been saving love songs and lullabies, and there's so much more no one's ever heard before. Something's telling me it might be you. It's telling me it must be you. And I'm feeling that it'll just be you all of my life. Maybe it's you, maybe it's you, maybe it's I've been waiting all of my life. Maybe it's you, maybe it's you, I've been waiting for all of my life.
Our closing words today are from Anne Forrester. As far as our love flows, as far as our hope grows, as far as our yearning goes, we are no further from one another. May it be so. And now we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish the chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.